I will sing of the goodness of God. I love your voice. You have led me through the fire in darkest night. You are close like no other. I've known you as a father. I've known you as a friend. And I have lived in the goodness of God. But all my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. Oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. So as we reflect on the year 2012, what happened in this region, Linden, Guyana, we sit here and we want to say thank God for His love and His grace, that we can come and we can celebrate with the family and with what transpired. It was very detrimental, it was very hard, but we're here to celebrate life. And we have an opportunity to make it right. So with that said, we'll have our first remark, and this will be done by his worship mayor. Please put your hands together and welcome Sharma Solomon with worship to make his first remark.
Thank you very much, Master Ceremony, Councillor Daron John. God is great indeed. Amen. I'd like to recognize the leader of the opposition and leader of the People's National Congress, Mr. Aubrey Norton, Mr. German Figa, Member of Parliament, Regional Chairman, Mr. Deron Adams, to the Member of Parliament, Ms. Coretta MacDonald, to our councillors of the RDC and the MNTC. I see Mr. Vincent Adams, one of the presenters. Let me recognize him. Alexander. And to all the invitees and to you Lindeners, let me take the opportunity to say Almighty God is great, and it is indeed every year a distinct pleasure to be here in your midst to commemorate 12 years of what we call the Linden tragedy of 18th of July, where 3 Lindeners lost their lives and several dozen or others that were injured. And as I do every year, I'd like to take the opportunity to extend my sincerest condolences to those who are here with us, the family and the family members of those who lost their lives, Mr. Alan Lewis, Shemroy Boye, and Ron Somerset, and to those who many injured. But I'd like to take this opportunity today on behalf of myself and family to the Lewis brothers, that's Orlando and Rodwell, sons of Alan. They've also lost their stepfather sometime this week. So that's why they're not here today to commemorate with us this 12 commemoration of the 18th of July. So I'd like to extend to them and family, their mother, our thoughts and prayers, and to say with them as a community, as we've demonstrated and will continue to do, that we are here for them and we will continue to be here for them. But like I always say too, many times when we acknowledge those who paid the ultimate sacrifice with the loss of lives, we overlook those who continue to live with the trauma, those injured, and even the wider community, and not recognizing that in this community, 12 years ago, men who were assigned to serve and protect came with masks and dark clothing to murder and to kill. And that sort of trauma remains fresh and etched in our memories and even in our psyche as we go about our daily lives. This morning, it was an example of that. Every year, as we go to lay the wreath at the tomb site, you see families as if it is a fresh wound, crying painfully with the loss of their loved ones. So as I do every year, is to remind us as a community, as a nation, that we must never forget those who paid the ultimate sacrifice and those who remained among us with the many scars and injuries, mentally and physically, that we can see. Last year, as we commemorated 11 years, I normally take the opportunity to break my presentation down into themes. And last year, the theme was compensation. So just a quick update on that. That I was contacted earlier this year by Mr. Rodwell Lewis, and they were engaged by the government, who had decided to settle on the $71 million compensation. To date, even though they were contacted by the Office of the Attorney General, and they've had their lawyers engaged with the government, even though it was initiated this year by the government after the many concerns expressed, they've still not received the compensation. So I'm just updating you of why we made that request last year. And even though engaged by the government, understanding that as outlined in the Commission of Inquiry, that the state is culpable and guilty of murdering 3 of its citizens, paid the first installment of compensation, and commit to do so, and have not done so. I'm updating the public. But let me take this year's theme a little further, because I want to return us, Linden, to the conversation of what got us to the point of 2012, and the 18th of July in particular, where we saw government then, the People's Progressive Party, led by the Donald Ramotar administration, instead of recognizing, coming out of 2011, the movement of change in this country, and where Linden had played that very crucial role for that movement of change. That was a movement evolved into 2012, and where you, the residents, after returning the PPP to power, only in a 1-seat, or in fact, a minority government, they placed you, Linden, in the crosshairs. I remember our first engagement with the late Roger Luncheon. Very first, this would be maybe the 19th or the 17th, in fact, the 20th of July, very first. And his first expression, it is that a movement we must stop. Even the PPP recognized what was unfolding in Linden. I want to take us back to that moment, because today, Lindeners, we are not in the position we need to be. We must recognize that then and now holds similarity of the treatment by this government, and why we should return to such a movement that allows us to bring that revolutionary spirit for change. That is what 2012 catapulted 2015. Where that momentum transitioned from a movement into a revolution, where the people of this community recognized that every violation was being made against their constitutional rights. In fact, those were enshrined in the 21st of August Agreement, where we outlined this government's transgressions against this community. I ask not only with that movement, but that we adopt that revolutionary spirit. But what with that spirit we must then proceed to have? We must then proceed to have the change that this country so desperately needs. It is what 2012 has taught us. It is the hallmark of what we see today, a society that is ripe and ready for change. But those 2 steps must be followed. We must return to the movement where people came together to ensure that they stop a government taking advantage of their rights. And we must be revolutionary in our action, that to challenge on behalf of those rights. And I like to remind people that at one time in this country, slavery was legal. Slavery was legal. As heinous as that song, and as criminal as it was legal. What it means is not because you have a government transgressing your rights in line with what they perceive to be constitution. You must recognize that Article 13 of our Constitution gives you the right to be involved in the decision-making process. Your constitutional right gives you access to information unimpeded and uninterrupted. Your rights give you access to be involved in every economical decision that will influence the outcome of your lives. Those were the basis of what we went to the streets about. It wasn't just about electricity. And even today, as we live to benefit from that, I say to you, Linden, are we truly benefiting from what we struggle for? But we'll come to that in the next conversation. But we got our electricity, but what we represented more than anything else was our rights to be respected. So I ask, as you adopt that revolutionary spirit for change, and we come together to form that movement, we must understand among us, we must look in that direction to see that change that we desire. Look in our communities. Look at our country. Not many Guyanese can say that they are satisfied with the state of Guyana. Not only because of the wealth and the distribution, but because of the many violations of our rights, the many issues of marginalization and discrimination. Those are the foundation on which the 18th of July 2012 rests. It is where we saw, as a people in this community, inspiring a country that no more any government, like the days of slavery, where it was right, should take advantage of your rights, and you not as a people be prepared to stand in defense of those rights. So I want to return your minds to that, Linden and Guyana, that as we face similar circumstances now, we must adopt that movement for change and that revolutionary spirit of courage to advance towards that change. And with that, I want to take this opportunity to, on my own behalf and that of the municipality, to recognize that we are confronted by many of those things that challenge our rights, especially in the area of good governance. And it is in that spirit I want to encourage Linden that the time will come in that spirit of a movement for revolutionary change. The municipality will be calling on you, Lindeners, for us to adopt and pursue that change. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Worship. Coming to do a solo is Miss Alicia Bentic. Please put your hands together and welcome her as she comes.
Good afternoon, everyone. Please allow me to use the established protocol. Lindeners, I urge you all to be steadfast, stay focused, understand what bonds us together, and remember to pray and uplift each other. May the soul of Shemroy Boy, Ron Somerset, and Alan Lewis continue to rest in peace. The songwriter states, "Hold your candle so all can see it." This doesn't give us a restriction. Matthew 5:14-15, it talks about the light. You are the light of the world, like a city on a hilltop that cannot be hidden. No one lights a lamp and then put it under a shed. Instead, they light their lamp and place it on a stand where it gives light to everyone in the house. I believe the house that they're referring to is the world. Let us continue to light the world. There is a candle in every soul, some brightly burning, some dark and cold. There is a spirit who brings a fire. It's like a candle and makes its home. Carry your candle, run to the darkness, seek out the hopeless, confused and torn. Hold out your candle for all to see it. Take your candle and go light your world. Take your candle and go light your world. Frustrated brothers, see how he's trying to light his own candle some other way. See now your sisters, she's been robbed and lied to, and still hold our candle without the blaze. So carry your candle, run to the darkness, seek out the helpless, confused and torn. Hold out your candle for all to see it. Take your candle and go light your world. Take your candle and go light your world. We are a family whose hearts are blazing. So let's raise our candle and light up the sky. Praying to our Father, his name is Jesus. Make us a beacon in darkened sky. Carry your candle, run to the darkness, seek out the hopeless, confused and torn. Hold out your candle for all to see it. Take your candle and go light your world. Take your candle and go light your world. Lindeners, take your candle. Go light this world. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Alicia Bente. We want to acknowledge the presence of MP Sherrod Duncan. He's in the midst. And we have has arrived our Deputy Mayor, Mr. Dominic Blair. At this time, we're going to have a dramatic piece, and this will be done by Miss Hannah Joseph. So we're going to have in our absence, we'll have Mr. Darren Adams, our regional chairman, who's going to come and address us. Please put your hands together and welcome regional chairman Darren Adams.
Good afternoon, everyone. Leader of the People's National Congress, Reform, and Leader of the Opposition, the Honorable Aubrey Norton, Members of Parliament, the Honorable German Figa, the Honorable Sherrod Duncan, the Honorable Coretta MacDonald, Mayor of Linden, Mr. Sharma Solomon, Deputy Mayor Dominic Blair, councillors of both the RDC and MNTC. I want to recognize the members of the commemoration committee who would have organized today's activity. I recognize Mr. Vincent Alexander, chairman of Epology, family members of the Linden Martyrs. Ladies and gentlemen all, residents of Region 10, I greet you on this solemn occasion in the spirit of togetherness and community that pervaded the day that we commemorate, and that same spirit of community that will ensure that this town and region continues to shine brightly as the best that Guyana has to offer. Previous speaker, the mayor, would have adequately outlined the history of this occasion and the background to its occurrence, and would have tried to give words to what it means to us as Lindeners and residents of this region. I have taken my challenge today to remind us all of the sense of community that brought us to where we are. The reason why those whose life we commemorate are no longer with us, and most importantly, why we must insist that this never happens again. The call to action are the words, never again. In previous years, I had shared that on that day, July 18, 2012, shortly before the shooting, I had arrived, like many other Lindeners, on the Wismar-Mackenzie Bridge to join in peaceful protests with other residents. And I remember we were cooking chow mein right by the water treatment plant area there to be distributed to those who had joined us to make their voices heard for the benefit of all Linden. What those of us who gathered each evening to lend support to that peaceful protest would remember the most was the way that Lindeners from all walks of life would gather to ensure that this community action, this show of unity, was seen to embody the call of all of the residents of Linden. The days leading up to that fateful July 18 were days that brought our community together in a manner that proved that when people are determined to advance a call for better circumstances for all, when that call is just and irrefutable, then regardless of any acquired divisions, people can and will come together to secure that change. The goal, however, must be is to forge a united community that stands against all attempts to divide us, while we seek to secure better for every resident of Linden and Guyana. I had only been in conversation with the late Alan Lewis for a short while that day, before we were hit with the smell of tear gas and heard the sound of gunfire. Again, this year, I relate this story to say to you that for me, there will be no possibility of anyone rewriting this history. I was there. The experience was personal, and the events of that day are indelibly scorched into my memory. The arm of the state that is pledged to serve us and to protect us was instead used to terrorize innocent Guyanese seeking only to exercise their constitutional right to peaceful protest. The weapons entrusted to the arm of the state to be used to protect its citizens were instead used to gun down those gathered there on July 18th, 2012, depriving 3 of our brothers of their lives. I can only say their names again so that they echo and are embedded in our memory, so that the refrain of never again takes root and flourishes. Alan Lewis, Ron Somerset, and Shamroy Boye. What the subsequent Commission of Inquiry established is fact, undeniable fact, which must be recorded and studied to ensure that this never happens, never again happens to innocent citizens of this country. And what is that fact? The Guyana Police Force was responsible for the deaths of innocent citizens of this country in an act where those entrusted to safeguard us were instead used to shoot and kill the very people they swore an oath to serve and protect. Even after this despicable act, residents were terrorized and lived in fear for those sworn to protect and serve them for days afterwards. With one young man, Randy Tello, from the 1 Mile area, being shot in the face by police a few nights into the month-long protest. This is why I offer as our goal in this little talk with you here today, the objective of forging a united community that stands against all attempts to divide us, while we seek to secure better for every resident of Linden and Guyana. It is only by uniting against excesses like this that we will come out better on the other end, secure to enjoy the rights that must be available to every Guyanese citizens as well. We must hold those who we elect and appoint to serve to account. Ensure that institutions like the Guyana Police Force live up to their mandate and motto to serve and to protect. Our inalienable rights must remain just that, rights. And we must ensure that the ultimate sacrifice paid by our dearly departed Alan, Ron, and Shamroy is not in vain. This is why this story is such an important part of our national history, that indeed this commemoration should be seen as a national observance. And I am prepared to advance the cause for it to be accorded that recognition, since the travesty of justice that we commemorate here was done against innocent Guyanese citizens. While we commemorate the ultimate price paid by 3 persons martyred for the cause being fought for by the citizens of Linden, let us not forget that the effects were not limited to these 3 families. There are so many others who suffered physically and emotionally during this period, where the apparatus of the state was turned to mete out violence on its citizens. These persons bore injuries and suffered great pain. Just as importantly, they have names and relatives and friends who care for them and felt their suffering too. So after acknowledging what happened, its impact on all of Linden, how then, ladies and gentlemen, do we move on positively as a community? I dare say that sacrifice and loss of this magnitude needs to be acknowledged, which we continue to do with this ceremony each year. Its rallying power needs to be recognized for what it is, an opportunity for us to unite for the good of the community and to use our collective strength to create better conditions in as many ways as we can for those to come after us. While we heed the rallying cry of never again, we must focus on the goal of uniting to create something better. This is the challenge I want to leave with us all here today, as I pledge to work with you on this as well. To the relatives and friends of the deceased, I say to you that all of Linden and all right-thinking citizens of Region 10 and Guyana stand in solidarity with you in your grief, and more so in our commitment to ensure that their lives will be the catalyst to ensure that nothing of this sort happens again. Never again. May their souls rest in perfect peace, and may God bless us all. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Regional Chairman. So this time we're going to have the dramatic poetry done by Hannah Joseph. Please put your hands together and welcome her as she comes.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. My poem is titled, Don't Forget to Remember. After 12 years, we, the people of Linden, cannot forget to remember the deaths. Scratch that, not deaths, but the murders of our 3 martyrs. 2012 was evidence of how broken the world can truly be. Tear gas, and thus they tried to stifle us from seeing clearly. The corruption and visible destruction that they were trying to bring to nothing but peaceful people. Because we stood up for our rights, they resisted. Gunshot fired, it might have missed me, but these 3 men didn't miss it. Now their loved ones are hurting deeply because a part of them that they have grown to love is missing. The force that were set up to protect us were used against us. But we, the people of Linden, stood strong. Hand in hand, we have proven to them that we could weather any storm. We might have lost 3 great men, but we gained unity in return. One lost battle is a lesson learned. Linden, we are strong and we must not forget to remember. Unity makes a way so there will not be any more deaths and destruction. Unity is what makes the world function. Unity is what makes the world go around.
It's unity what's going to make the difference. All right, so moving on, we now have the dance, and this will be done by the Praise Tabernacle. Please put your hands together.
I used to be so broken, lost, empty. A heart with no beat, a singer with no song to sing. So I know the feeling, the silence is deafening. But in your pain lies a blessing, a sweet and sour victory. So keep walking, though it seems so far. No matter who you are, see there's one thing that I know. Life is you leave, you so bitter, 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 bitter. it gets better, better. It's alright, close your eyes, send a prayer to the sky. I know it's hard to find. You must believe that it gets better. Listen to me. I know you're scared, your heart's bleeding. But what are you gonna do now? I think it's time you break free. Hey, walking, though it seems so far. No, it doesn't really matter who you are. See, this one thing that I know. I think you leave. You so bitter, 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 bitter. You must believe that it gets better, better, better. It's alright, close your eyes, send a prayer to the sky. I know it's hard to find, but you must believe that it gets better, better. Oh yeah, almost out of here. See, I was almost wanted to die from how I was done wrong. I cried out every night, looking for a helping hand. That's when it happened. Jesus took me, he held me close, gave me love, refilled my heart, helped me grow. Well, because his love is made me whole. Anytime, try him out, he'll change your life. See, I know that, yeah, life it can leave you so bitter, 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 bitter. You must believe that it gets better, better, better. Yeah, life it can leave you so bitter, 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 bitter. But you must believe that it gets better, better. Oh, it gets better, better, better. Oh, it gets better. If you only believe, so much better.
Well done, Miss Hannah. At this time, we're going to have our third presentation. This will be done by MP German Figa. Please put your hands together and welcome MP German Figa.
Thank you. Yes. Leader of the opposition, leader of the People's National Congress Reform, Honorable Aubrey Norton, colleagues, Member of Parliament, Sharon Duncan, Honorable Coretta McDonald, Regional Chairman, Mr. Deron Adams, and councillors of the RDC. I recognize Councillor Fern McCoy, His Worship the Mayor, Mr. Sharma Solomon, Deputy Mayor, Mr. Dominic Blair, and councillors of the Mayor and Town Council. I recognize the lovely Alisa. You have a task to complete. Former IMC Chairman, Mr. Aubrey Norton, Chairman of the Prodigy, Mr. Vincent Alexander, residents of Linden, good afternoon. On this day, 12 years ago, July 18th. July 18th for us Lindeners and residents of Region 10 will forever remain a significant day in our collective history. This day carries different meaning for different people. For those who experience it firsthand, for those who observe it from afar, and for those who heard about it. What is important in every regard is the need for us as Lindeners and residents of Region 10 to never forget the ultimate sacrifice three of our Lindeners faced: a son, a father, brother, uncle, friend, a neighbor, a student. Whatever they were to you, those individuals' lives were taken away from them in our collective struggle, the people's struggle for a better life against an attempt imposed for greater hardship on our community. We honor their sacrifice in recognizing them as martyrs as we host this very important activity every year to pay a tribute to their memory. The event of that day for me, which led to days, weeks, and months of protests, is one that is viewed with a bittersweet perspective, reflecting on the essence of democracy, where people in unison express their right to peaceful protests and demonstrate their dissatisfaction with decisions made on their behalf without proper consultation from their elected leaders. Leaders who after all were elected to serve their interests, and leaders who they put in office protested against the government's dictatorial, discriminatory, and marginalized stance against our people. That day highlighted our tendency as a people not to accept that which was being imposed upon us, by demonstrating our collective and strong objection to such a decision, which was not good for our people and our community in the form of a united and peaceful protest. We know then that those who did not resist such imposition were in the minority. Further, it was interesting to note that some fellow Guyanese argued that the people of Linden should not benefit from lower electricity costs because other parts of Guyana faced higher charges. This argument, fellow Lindeners, is akin to saying we should accept whatever is given to us, regardless of fairness or constitutionality, because others have accepted such, a position reminiscent of that position imposed on slaves who eventually rebelled. But we, despite those views, rejected it. The people of Linden and Region 10 united and rejected it outright. Residents here and those on the virtual platform, I put it to you as Lindeners and as Guyanese, we must recognize that July 18, 2012 demonstrated the power of unity and what can be achieved on matters of importance to our township, region, and country if we as a people are united on such matters. If we stand together regardless of race, religion, political affiliation, and exercise our collective power, we can ensure that our leaders truly serve the interests of the Guyanese people. That day, which led to months, also showed civic and political maturity, which was supported by our churches, NGOs, civic-minded Guyanese, and political parties, seeing the people's just cause despite our differences. Fellow Lindeners, the constant talk of unity, which we all agree is what is needed among our people and partners, is usually encapsulated in the maxim, united we fall, united we stand, divided we fall, is widely recognized as a cornerstone for collective success. However, the realization of unity must transcend beyond mere rhetoric, beyond mere talk. It demands genuine efforts and actions. Unity, we must accept, fellow Lindeners, is not an automatic outcome of a desired group of people. It has to be deliberate. It has to be a deliberate construct to achieve through genuine efforts and strategic actions. Residents, if we are serious about achieving unity, we must address the challenges posed by immaturity, envy, and jealousy, which are hindrances to unity, and simultaneously implement strategies that promote clear goal setting, open communication, collective culture, and effective conflict resolution. Once done, residents of Linden, our people can forge as a united front. This unity, I know that you will agree with me, is essential for achieving common goals and objectives, demonstrating that when individuals come together with a shared purpose and mutual respect, their collective strength far surpasses the sum of their individual efforts. Residents, when united, the government and its officials will be compelled to fulfill their roles as public servants, prioritizing the interests of the Guyanese people. By disarming the government and parties of divisive race politics and discrimination, we the people, making the conscious decision based on issues during elections, we can create a better Guyana and achieve the much needed change for betterment for all Guyanese and this country. As we reflect on the tragic day of July 18, let us remember the young men whose lives were unjustly taken for exercising their constitutional right for betterment by engaging in peaceful protests. Let us continue to honor them, not only with annual reflections and vigils, but also by recognizing the power of unity and the importance of standing up for truth and justice. Their sacrifice, comrades, should remind us that freedom includes the freedom of dissent, and that standing together can lead to meaningful change. This monument here symbolizes the strength of united consciousness and the potential for change when we stand together as a people. Residents, long live the memory of Mr. Shemroy Boye, Ron Somerset, and Alan Lewis. Long live our Linden Martyrs. I thank you.
Thank you very much, MP Figueroa. Long live Linden. This time we're going to have a rendition, this time done by Alicia Bentic. Again, please put your hands together and welcome her.
Why should I feel discouraged? And why should the shadows come? And why should my heart feel lonely and lone? Oh, heaven and earth, when Jesus is my portion, a constant friend is He. His eye is on the sparrow, and I know He watches me. I sing because I'm happy. I sing because I'm free. Oh, His eye is on the sparrow, and I know, yes, I know He watches me. And why should I feel discouraged? And why should the shadows come? And why should my heart feel lonely and long? Oh, heaven and earth, when Jesus is my portion, a constant friend is He. His eye is on the sparrow, and I know, yes, I know, oh, I know He watches me. Thank you.
His eyes on the sparrow, and I know He watches. At this time, we're going to have a presentation, and this will be remarks coming from Mr. Vincent Alexander. Please put your hands together and welcome Mr. Vincent Alexander.
Thank you very much, Mr. Master of Ceremonies. All protocols observed, but permit me to give special recognition to the relatives of Alan, Ron, and Shemroy, who are with us here today. Today, on this, the 12th year after the dastardly and cowardly killing of our brothers, Alan, Ron, and Shemroy, and the pelleting of many others, I come on behalf of the International Decade of People of African Descent Assembly to commiserate with the community of Linden, and more particularly with the families of Alan, Ron, and Shemroy. But even as we commiserate, let us get solace from the fact that what they struggled for was achieved. They struggled to ensure that the tariff rates for electricity in Linden was not hiked, and that has been achieved. We are therefore committed to ensuring that that achievement is maintained. But more importantly, to recognize that that achievement is but part of what the struggle is all about. It's not the struggle in its totality. And therefore, there is still much to be struggled for. And in that circumstance, the best way for us to commemorate their lives is to ensure that we continue the struggle which they participated in, because there's much more to be had from struggle. As we commemorate this activity here in Linden, we should not lose sight on the fact that this activity is organized by the people of Linden, but not for the people of Linden. It's organized for all Guyanese who are appreciative of the sacrifice of Alan, Ron, and Shemroy. And in doing so, we should not lose sight of the fact that in 1948, there were sugar workers who engaged in similar struggle. There were sugar workers who were gunned down in similar manner. But in 2024, the nation celebrates the lives of those sugar workers. But the lives of Alan, Ron, and Shemroy are not celebrated by the nation, meaning that the state does not celebrate their lives. And we must not lose sight of that fact, that there is some particularity. And in that, we must recognize that their lives were taken at the hands of operatives of the state. And those operatives of the state who took their lives and shot upon many others were rewarded for what they did. They have been elevated into higher office, and today are still perpetrating those dastard acts upon the people of Guyana. And that signifies the need for the struggle to continue, because the system of oppression is still in place. A system of oppression which has come down from the days of slavery, colonization, and continue even under this state of new colonization. But we live in a world that has recognized the way in which the people of African descent, in particular, have been treated. And in view of that recognition, the world community has declared a decade for the people of African descent, a decade from 2015 to 2024, a decade in which the people of African descent should have redress for all that has been done to them, from slavery coming right through to present day. And that struggle I'm talking about is a struggle for that redress. The United Nations, in declaring the decade, recognized that racial discrimination, xenophobia, and related manifestations are still with us today, and that those need to be overcome. And the people of African descent need to be given equitable treatment as a form of redress for the suffering they have been exposed to from slavery on to today. And in that recognition, the United Nations has identified the need for institutional and legal framework changes to create the environment that will give us the possibility of equitable treatment of the people of African descent. And we live in a country where even in the face of that declaration, we have a government which defies the facts of life and the facts of history and seek to contend that there is no need for equitable treatment for the people of African descent. They talk about reparations. And let us be clear, reparations are related to the acts of enslavement. And reparations is meant to come from those who enslaved our ancestors. And so when the government commits to reparations, they're not committing to addressing the current situation, which has historical antecedents of the people of African descent. And in fact, when the United Nations posed the question to them about the current state of affairs, their response was that the people of African descent are themselves responsible for the state in which they're in. They wrote things such as, we took decisions to purchase abandoned estates. We took decisions not to get involved in cash crops. We took decisions to plant provision when there was no export markets. And on they went in defense of their contention that the people of African descent are responsible for their current state. We therefore know what we're up against. And we saw what we were up against 12 years ago. And we see it continuing up to this day. And therefore, today for us must not only be in memory, must not only be in commemoration, it must be a commitment to the struggle to ensure that what the world has recognized and what the world has dedicated a decade to, that is the struggle of the people of African descent for recognition, justice, and development, is pursued to its ultimate conclusion. It's only then and then that we will really be paying tribute to our fallen heroes, our martyrs, who participated in the struggle which continues today. Today, therefore, we have to recommit and rededicate ourselves to that struggle. For that struggle is for real. Our state requires address. The struggle to change must continue. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Comrade Vincent Alexander. Great presentation. We want to recognize the role of the Pastor Morris McKinnon, Pastor Selwyn Sills, in absentia, and even to the church, who stand in solidarity over the 12 years of Linden Martyrs. So at this time, we want to welcome the drum corps. Please put your hands together and welcome them as they come. Linden Music Corps. Put your hands together for them. This is our Linden Music Corps. Let's support them. They've done a great job. Can you all stand as we welcome our feature address of our Honorable Aubrey Norton, leader of the PNCR and opposition leader. Please put your hands together and welcome him.
Good afternoon. Please be seated. Chairman of the proceedings, members of the central executive of our party, Darren Adams, who happens to be the regional chairman. I see German Figa, who also happens to be the party chairman here. I saw Member of Parliament and CC member Coretta MacDonald, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, all present. The 18th of July is a significant day. I think we must recall that in 1918, on this day, the most celebrated freedom fighter for African liberation was born, Nelson Mandela. And so the day has international significance. It also has national significance because it's the day that the lives of 3 citizens of Linden was taken away, snuffed out by operatives in the Guyana police force. Some there would say that this should not be a political event. It should just be a community event. But let me remind you that is a political decision that caused the death of our 3 comrades. The decision to remove the subsidy from electricity in Linden and impose hardship on the people of Linden. It was a political decision that caused the Guyana police force to believe they can murder 3 citizens and get away with it. So we mustn't fool ourselves. It is political action that would have placed us here. We're meeting at a time to remember the lives of these 3 persons. But we are also meeting at a particular time in our political history. And I want to make the point very early that we must stop looking at what people say and look at what people do. When 32 years ago, the People's National Congress left government, we left a plan with the required funds in the treasury to do the Soesdijk-Linden Highway. To date, it has not been done. So much so for one Guyana. We then returned to power in 2015 as a coalition, something which we are still committed to. And we began to build dormitories in Linden so that the young people from all parts of Region 10 can come, have proper accommodation. 4 years, and it isn't completed as yet, is going kitty, kata, kitty, kata. We began to build a track and field stadium, for the want of a better word. In 2024, still not completed. We felt that Region 10 should have the ability to feed itself. And so we began to build a road from the Berbice River to Millie's Hideout. To date, the government has not completed that road. We saw it necessary to put in place public assistance for people in Linden and Region 10 who needed public assistance. The government removed close to 800 persons from public assistance. The music corps you just saw. And I want to say a special thanks to Sister Britton, who when I came to Linden to establish that corps was one of the few persons who believe that it will succeed. She committed herself to it and stayed with it. And you might see a music corps as a simple thing, but a music corps is critical. One of the reasons the decision was taken was because research would have shown that children who do music tend to do better in school. The government didn't feel it necessary to continue to finance the music corps, which we were financing. A specialist in music told me recently that one of the reasons music contributes to children doing better is because one section of the brain reads and one section of the brain acts. And music allows both the reading and the acting section to do it together. I'm no specialist, I'm just reporting. But they didn't continue that. They came and met a call center. And they went on. They bring people that will increase and improve it. I understand it is dysfunctional now. Recall that for years the region had outgrown the office apart from the other problems it would have had. And we began to build an office for the Regional Democratic Council in Region 10. They stopped that. It was being built at Spikeland. I'm saying these things to you to point out that if there is an interest in Linden, all of those projects would have been completed. And it must raise eyebrows that they have not been completed. And we must struggle to ensure they are completed. That is one of the tributes of honor we can pay for those who would have lost their lives. Seeing real improvement in the lives of the people of Region 10 and Linden. And so we must understand why all of this is happening. This is happening because over the years, the government pursued total control and domination. And they believe if they improve your capacity to live a better life, they will not be in control and it will be difficult to dominate. And so what they do, they select a few, make them happy. But the mass of people in Linden continue to suffer. And therefore, we must have sense to recognize lip service as distinct from actions that will ensure we develop economically. And if they were seriously interested in the development of Region 10, they would have not reduced the spending in Region 10. When you look at the infrastructure budget, which is 666 billion, and you ask yourself, what is in it for Linden? You see very little. This struggle has been a struggle long and hard. One significant event in this struggle was the murder of these three young men. But the struggle continues for us to get a better life politically, socially, and economically. Politically, the government continues to starve Linden of resources. And once you are starving people of resources, you are pushing them into poverty further. We must recognize that the government appoints an REO, they appoint a town clerk, and they appoint them with the sole purpose of stifling the work of the elected council so that development will not come to Region 10 and Linden. Let us not fool ourselves. If we asphyxiate you, if we stifle you by not giving you resources, it's a way of ensuring you don't develop and you continue the poverty. And so we need to recognize that part of this struggle is to ensure that the town council here and the Regional Democratic Council be given the resources to ensure they can govern and deliver to the people of Linden and Region 10. Then we are talking about a government that is serious about Guyana. But like I said, their focus is on domination and control. And therefore, they are not going to provide resources to ensure the emancipation of the people of Linden and of Region 10. So we must very be clear in our heads that we are up against it. It doesn't matter if it is Ramatar, it doesn't matter if it is Jagdale, it doesn't matter if it is Irfan Ali. What matters is the trend. And the trend is one that shows no desire to let the people of Linden and Region 10 develop. And so, politically, we need to struggle to ensure that resources are delivered. Socially, we need to struggle to ensure the survival of the music core. Any society in which you stifle the culture in the society is a society that you are developing that you do not want to be multifaceted. Music, culture, the arts are part of people's development. It is part of people's life, and they should be promoted. When a society has quality cultural activities, then that society is in a much better position to progress. But if the society is placed in a place where there is the lowest level of cultural, music, and sport activity, then that society is in trouble. We also have got to struggle for the economic development of Region 10. Region 10 has resources. What is needed is the government's involvement and investment on the part of the government. You might be aware that Lens has some 300 million that should really go to small business development in Linden. The government refuses to appoint a board, and what in essence happens is the money sits there and is not available for the development of the people of Linden. And so even in the economic realm, what you are seeing are direct attempts to ensure that Linden and Region 10 do not become sustainable. Our struggle has to be to ensure that Linden and Region 10 are sustainable communities in which there are flourishing business, social activities, so that those communities are not dependent on anyone. And so the fight must be for economic emancipation. Any people that are not economically emancipated are a people in trouble. And I want you to watch carefully to see who they permit to bring business in Linden, because that in itself is an indication of where they are going. There is no attempt to ensure that there is the development of contractors with the ability to deliver. And I said to you, these are issues we will address as the next government in this country. For us, all communities must become sustainable communities. Look at what they are doing. This year, you will have PPP groups with parallel African Liberation Day celebrations. How is it? You want the unity of the African Guyanese community, but as a government, you are financing people against the traditional activities. I said to you, be sensible. and do not be carried away. However small are the traditional activities, we must go to them and support them because they are genuine. What in essence you're seeing is an attempt to divide our society politically. And it is every area that you can see them trying to control and dominate. I born and grow in Linden. Since I was a little boy, I know the Linden Co-op electricity supply is re-owned. Then somebody parachutes from Georgetown and decide they're putting up a committee that they control to run it. You remember that? And people had to resist it. And the resistance resulted in the people of Linden being able to elect their own board to manage the society. Those struggles are critical because if they control the electricity, they are controlling a key element of our lives. So I want to thank all those who work assiduously to ensure the members come out and vote for genuine representatives in Linden at that electricity, the Linden Utilities Services Cooperative Society. It is critical that we pay attention to all of these institutions and ensure that we continue to elect representatives that have the interests of the people of Linden and Region 10 at heart. It is critical. The government likes to talk about unity, but they cannot bring unity. Everything they would have done points to disunity. You know, I saw Jack Dale in very cynical manner talking about David Granger not being able to deliver to the African Guyanese community. And it gives you this mindset. David Granger attempted and ran this country in a fair way. When he did work for electricity, all Guyanese benefit. The work he did in water, all Guyanese benefit. The work he did in health. But this government is fixated on not sharing the resources of this country equitably. And so they use it as a means to curse. But I'll say this to you. The fact that we run the country in that manner is what Guyana deserves. Guyana does not deserve a government that runs the country for one set of people. We said to you, we will be a government that manages this country in the interest of all the people of Guyana. And that is critical. Because if we continue down this road, we are heading to instability. And so, as we remember Ron Somerset, as we remember Sharon Shemroy Bouye, and we remember Alan Lewis, we must remember they sacrificed for us. They were one important event in this long process of emancipation. And Bob Marley said it to you. And you must not only hear it, we must act on it. He said, emancipate yourself from mental slavery. It is very critical that we emancipate ourselves from mental slavery. It is very critical that we believe in ourselves. It is very critical that we believe we have the ability to achieve whatever we want to achieve against the odds. That we have staved off domination and control of the People's Progressive Party is a manifestation of the people of Linden and Region 10 resilience. I want to urge you to be resilient. I want to urge you to understand every phase of the struggle and apply the correct tactics and strategy so that we can get rid of the People's Progressive Party. I make no bones about it. The emancipation of Region 10, the emancipation of Linden is directly linked to the removal of this government from office. They mean no good for Region 10, and we must change them. And so we will be contributing to celebrating the lives of these 3 martyrs if we do everything to ensure that Guyana gets a government that is prepared to serve all the people of Guyana. As we come to the close of this 12th anniversary of the brutal murder of our comrades, I must make this point. It is important to remember who was the commander in Linden when those persons were murdered. It is important to remember that there was a commission of inquiry, which is like a court, in which the present commissioner, then commander, said he did not talk to the then Minister of Home Affairs, Clement Roy, but the telephone record showed that he spoke to him. In a proper country, that would have been perjury, and he'd head into jail. And you know why I say this? I say this to say to you, they had to protect him when he lied then, and they will have to protect him every time he lied, like his recent lie. And let us see what this is. This is a situation where the Guyana police force has been politicized. And having been politicized and acting on behalf of the regime, the policemen now believe they got carte blanche to do whatever they want to do because it is they that protects the corrupt elite in government. And that is important. I've always argued that a fish rots from the head. If the body going, you got hope for the head. But once the head rotten, the body going. And I said to you, we live in a society in which the head is rotten. We live in a society in which we need to continue and help the head to continue to rot and to change the situation so that we can offer the people of this country a better life, a high quality life. On another occasion, I will deal in depth with what we call our people-centered development strategy, a strategy in which we intend to put the people of Guyana first and to ensure that the resources from this country benefit the people of Guyana. As we meet here today and pay tribute to Ron, Shamroy, and Alan, let us recommit ourselves to this struggle to ensure a just life. Let us recommit ourselves to the view that there must be prosperity for all in Guyana. May their soul rest in peace as we continue to benefit from their sacrifices. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Comrade Leader. Great word. I want you to take heed to those words that have been proclaimed from the leader. And this time we're going to have a rendition, and this will be done by Pastor Richard McDonald. Please put your hands together.
Well done, Pastor. Great job. Looks beyond our thoughts. It's all we need. This time we're going to stand and we're going to have the laying of the wreath. And we're going to invite the musical choir as they come, and we're going to have the laying of the wreath. So we're first going to have a member of the family.
Musical corps, please take your position. Members of the family, please come forward. So we're going to have Wreath laid by a member of the family. That will follow by the leader of the PNCR and opposition leader, Mr. Aubrey Norton, followed by the regional chairman, Darren Adams, and Mr. Mayor of Linden, Mr. Shama Solomon. Mr. Funky Kuru, chairman of the commemorative committee. Mr. Kuru. We call the vice chair. Deputy Mayor, can you please come? This is a wreath laying to those that have sacrificed their life. Thank you very much. From a leader, regional chairman, from mayor, and deputy mayor, we thank you. So this time I want to say thanks to our speakers and to those that participated in the program. We want to say thanks for taking time out to be here. We want to encourage you to continue to fight. Continue to fight, good fight, that we can be able to succeed and rise to move forward in this town at region number 10. So at this time we want to remember the family in prayer. Please keep them in prayer. It's hard and we must remember them in prayer. Thanks again for coming.
Please do enjoy everything that is here. Just take a reminder, there will be a Freedom Fest on the 1st of August. This will be in Richmond here. It's a family fun day. It's a time where you can come and fellowship. There will be competition. We'll be issuing gifts to persons who have been successful in the region. We ask you to come out and support. This will be done in Richmond here. So do enjoy, and thanks again for being here. God bless you, and do enjoy.
Sing hear my plea, oh yeah. A song for my life. Woke up early this morning to the sounds of crying. Another mother shedding her tears. Oh yeah, why are the pain and suffering? Why are the senseless killing? Could it be that nobody cares? Oh no. So many sons lost in this slaughter.